The file was still in the shared folder. Same location, same parent directory, but the name had changed. I noticed it on a Tuesday morning, before most people had reached their desks. I wasn't looking for anything unusual. I was pulling up a document I'd spent the better part of 2 weeks building, the final version of which I'd finished on a Thursday night because I wasn't satisfied with one section and kept working it until I was. I opened the folder. The file name was different. I clicked on it. The author field said Marcus Chen. I sat with that for a moment, maybe 4 seconds. Then I closed the Properties window and opened the actual document. The structure was the same. The 3-part framework, the section headers, the specific framing around the core recommendation. All of it. Rearranged just enough that a fast read might miss it, but not enough that someone who'd built it sentence by sentence would have any doubt. I knew where every idea had come from. I knew the footnote I'd added at close to midnight because the sourcing on one claim didn't satisfy me. None of that had changed. What had changed was the name attached to it. My name was not in the document. I closed the tab. I set my phone face down on the desk. Then I opened File Explorer and navigated to the application's autosave folder. The path was still there. The program had been caching a recovery copy every 15 minutes while I worked, and the last save showed 11:47 on that Thursday night, 14 hours before Marcus's version appeared on the shared drive. The file was complete. The author field showed my name. Creation date was correct. I read the metadata, confirmed the timestamps, and closed the folder. Then, I went back to my normal queue and answered 3 emails I owed people from the day before. I didn't contact Marcus. I didn't flag anything in any channel. I went through the rest of that day the same way I would have gone through any other Tuesday. Marcus had been with the company about 2 years longer than me. He was good at being in the right conversations, good at being remembered as the person who'd said something useful at the moment it was needed. He wasn't reckless. He was considered. That was the detail that stayed with me as the week moved forward. This wasn't a mislabeled file or some confused co-authorship. The original had been pulled from the shared folder. The replacement had been uploaded with a different name, a different author field, and a creation date that showed Saturday, a full day after my Thursday session. You don't accidentally change a document's author field and re-upload it under a new name. I checked the version history on the platform 3 days after I'd found it. The first logged action on the document was a rename and an author field edit. Not a new document built from scratch, a rename, then a modification, then a save. The platform read it as his file because that's what the metadata said now. Anyone looking at the standard view would see his name, his upload date, his document. Anyone who didn't know to look further back. I knew to look. I also found the email I'd sent myself 18 days earlier. A rough outline with the same 3-section architecture, the same core argument, the same recommendation logic. Still in my sent folder, attached, with a timestamp older than anything Marcus could point to. I hadn't sent it to anyone at the time because the document wasn't finished. I was still refining it. That turned out to matter. Over the next few days, I built a folder on a personal drive, nothing connected to any company system, copied the autosave file, screenshotted the version history showing the rename and the timestamp gap, saved the original email with the outline, ran a PDF export from the autosave and saved it locally. My name, the original file name, the creation date, all sitting there in the metadata. I put everything in one place, labeled it, and left it alone. The quarterly strategy review was announced on a Wednesday morning, 3 weeks out. Standard leadership level review. 10, maybe 12 people in the room, including Dana Whitfield, the director who oversaw our function, and 2 senior managers who reported to her. There was also a contingent from finance who'd been consulted on the resource section of the proposal. The topic of the review was the Operational Efficiency Initiative, the framework I had built. Marcus was listed as the presenting team lead. I read the invitation twice. Then I looked up who was coordinating the meeting logistics. That was Priya Nair. She managed the quarterly review setup, the room, the AV, the presentation laptop. She'd been doing it long enough that people trusted her with specific instructions. Load this file. Make sure this version is the one that opens. She was thorough, and she wasn't particularly close to Marcus in any professional or social way. I composed a short email to her that afternoon. I told her I had the final version of the presentation file, that it incorporated the most recent data pull, and was ready to go. That part was accurate. My original document had used numbers from a pull I'd done the week before I finished it, and those were more current than what Marcus had in his version. I told her Marcus had asked me to make sure she had it. He hadn't asked me that, but he also hadn't sent her any specific file instructions. I knew because the meeting logistics thread was in a shared channel I had access to as a review participant. There was no message from Marcus to Priya about which version to load. I attached the original file, not a modified version, not something altered to create a contrast. The actual autosave copy with my intact metadata, my author field, my creation date. I sent it. Priya responded in about 20 minutes. "Got it, loading it now." I closed my laptop and didn't think about it again for the rest of that day. The 3 weeks between sending that email and the meeting weren't dramatic from the outside. Marcus mentioned the upcoming review twice in team-wide communications, once in a Slack channel message, once during a stand-up. He called it my framework the first time. The stand-up was in a small room on the 3rd floor. 8 or 9 people, chairs in a loose horseshoe. I was near the back, close to the window. Marcus stood at the front with a printout. Bullet points, organized, the kind of preparation that signals you're taking something seriously. When he got to the efficiency initiative, he was already mid-sentence, hands moving, not slowing down. He called it the structure I put together. No particular emphasis. It landed inside a longer rundown of the quarter's priorities, the same way you'd mention any piece of work that belonged to you. Nobody reacted. Nobody had any reason to. I was looking at my notes. I didn't look up. The day before the review, he sent a message to the full team. Brief, professional, the kind of thing people send before a presentation to signal readiness and build a little goodwill. Dana replied with a short acknowledgement. 2 other people reacted. From the outside, it looked like a man who'd already cleared the important distances. But 4 days before that, Dana had sent a broader communication about the quarter's direction and what the leadership review was meant to address. Marcus was the only team member she'd copied directly. I read it standing at my desk, phone in my hand, badge still clipped from coming through the door that morning. His name was in the CC line. Mine wasn't. He'd replied to her within the hour. 1 line, professional, brief. She'd responded the same day. That thread had been closed before I even knew it existed. I set my phone down and opened my calendar. The morning before the review, I opened the sent folder and found the email I'd sent Priya 3 weeks earlier. It was there, timestamp unchanged. I closed the app and left the office at the usual time. The morning of the review, I arrived 12 minutes early. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling glass on 2 sides and a mounted display at the front connected to a presentation laptop that Priya had configured the night before. I chose a seat near the back wall, slightly off-center from the main sightline. Over the next 10 minutes, the room filled. Dana came in at 2 minutes past the hour. She was consistently 2 or 3 minutes past the start time, and everyone who worked with her regularly understood that wasn't lateness. It was a deliberate practice of letting the room settle before she entered. Marcus was already at the front when she arrived, standing beside the display, notes in hand, laptop connected. He was composed. He'd clearly prepared. He glanced at me once as the last few people found seats. I was looking at the table. Dana opened with a brief framing of the quarter's priorities. Then she turned to Marcus. He clicked through the title slide. When the document loaded, when he navigated from the title to the document itself, and the folder view briefly populated in the corner of the large display before collapsing into the presentation, the system showed the file information panel automatically. It was a feature of that particular room setup, something the display did when you opened from a folder path rather than directly from the application. A small overlay, automatic. It showed the file name, the file path, and the author field. The author field showed my name. It showed the original creation date. Marcus saw it the same moment I did. He went still, not noticeably, not to someone who wasn't watching his hands. But his next click came about 2 seconds later than the rhythm he'd been using, and when he advanced the slide, the overlay was already gone. He didn't look at the corner of the screen again. He looked at his notes, then at the room, and kept going. But Dana had already seen it. She'd been watching the display when the file loaded. She didn't move or speak, but I had been watching her, and she stopped, just for a beat, before she returned her attention to Marcus. The presentation ran just under 20 minutes. He was professional throughout, pacing controlled, transitions smooth, early questions handled without difficulty. One of the finance people asked about a specific assumption in the resource model. Marcus answered it. Then Dana asked about the development timeline, the phasing logic specifically, which was a section I'd written carefully because the original proposal included a dependency map that wasn't immediately obvious. Marcus answered it with a version that was slightly off. Not wrong enough to fail, but not the logic that was actually in the document. He caught himself and corrected the framing, but the correction came half a beat late, and the recovery was visible to anyone who was tracking. Dana didn't follow up. She moved to the next question. At the end, she thanked Marcus for the presentation. Then she thanked the team. She looked at the room when she said it, not at Marcus. She typically looked at the presenter when she closed a review. I had attended 4 of them and had not seen her look away from the presenting lead during closing thanks. She looked at the room. Nobody else in that space would have known to notice that. After the meeting ended, people filtered out in small groups. Marcus gathered his things at the front, said something brief to one of the finance people, shook a hand, and left. He didn't approach me. He didn't look at me. I stayed in my seat and organized my notes, not because there was much to organize, but because I was in no hurry. Priya stopped by my chair on her way out. She didn't say anything. She set a small sticky note on the table in front of me and kept walking. On it, she'd written the file path she'd used for the presentation. The path pointed to the file I'd sent her. She'd used it. She'd seen the author field when it appeared. She wasn't telling me anything I didn't already know. She was telling me she knew. I folded the note and put it in my jacket pocket. 3 days later, Dana's assistant sent a meeting request. 30 minutes, Dana's office. The subject was the next phase of the initiative: timeline planning, resource scope, stakeholder sequencing. Dana opened by saying she wanted my read on the architecture of the original framework before they moved into execution. She asked how familiar I was with the foundational logic. I told her I had built it from the beginning. She typed something in her notes. She asked 2 specific questions: the dependency mapping section and the final recommendation rationale. I answered both. She wrote that down. The meeting ran 24 minutes. At the end, she said she'd send a calendar invite for the execution kickoff. The following Monday, Marcus's team affiliation changed in the company directory, reassigned to a different initiative on a different floor. No announcement, no explanation in any shared channel. A calendar update, a project change, and that was it. He wasn't gone. He was just elsewhere. He sent me a message one afternoon, about 2 weeks after the reassignment. 4 words. Good luck with it. I read it, closed the app, and went back to the document I was working on. I never replied. The original file is still in the folder on my personal drive. I haven't moved it. I haven't deleted it. I don't know when I will. Maybe when the project is fully closed and the outcome is documented somewhere that doesn't require me to hold it. Or maybe not even then. I don't think about it much. But it's there, and I know it's there, and that's a different kind of thing than not having it at all.